All right, so I found another job that I want to take a look at on the channel. This is a junior software developer job. Again, this is not about the company in any way. This is just about the job postings. I just want to look at them, analyze them, and see if they hold up, right, to just our critique. This is a remote job, which is awesome. I would not consider an in-office job anymore. So the remote's nice, but it's $19 to $22 an hour for a software developer job, specifically a junior software developer job, which the average for a junior dev is like $55,000. So, and I think I don't know if it's increased the past year or 2 years. I don't know where that stands, but I know it's up there. And $19 an hour is this a year before tax, right? So you take the total working hours of 2080, which is a year, and multiply that by 19, and that's $39,520, which is not good, like, at all. I mean, for a software development job, that's well below average. I mean, if you are a junior dev, you should be making way more than $39,000. You should be upwards of at least $55,000. And I get that, okay, if you read here, it says high school or equivalent, so it's probably just kind of bait for a high school student or an early college student to try to get their first job. But I don't like that it says junior, because it completely undermines the average salary of what it should be. And if they're paying benefits and they're expecting you to have 1 year in PHP, MySql, React, and even consider knowing any of these, I mean, it's just completely undermining what the industry has for salary. So it's kind of unfortunate to see. And then they have a scale. Yeah, so they have a scale at the bottom here for application questions. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate your skill? I don't even know. So I use C#. I don't know what I am on a scale of 1 to 10. I would put like 5. I would say I'm this average. I'm not good, but I'm also not bad. Like I'm average in the sense that if I get stuck, I feel like I can look it up and figure it out, or ask somebody to help me out. But I'm not like a wizard, like a 10. Like I'm not like actively critiquing people on Stack Overflow and suggesting answers, basically, is what I'm getting at. So that's kind of odd. I don't know how they would look at that. Like, I don't know how they would filter that out. Like, do they want somebody that's only putting 6s and above? I don't know. It doesn't tell you. I would put 5s on all of them. I mean, what else would you put? Like 1? Like, you would never get the job. So that's kind of odd. But there's a couple factors that I use to look at, when I consider if I'm going to apply to a job. But people say it's not all about the money, and it's not. But again, you have to live. You have to make a living somehow. It's unavoidable, right? So the first factor that I would look at after the past year is, or really year and a half, is a 12 is percentage change in the consumer price index. So this has it broken down from 2001 all the way up to 2021, and you can see the average increase of costs has gone up 6.8%, and that's encompassing all these things. So food, energy, electricity, housing, especially, everything has gone up on average a total of 6.8. Average increase for all these combined is 6.8%. That's the consumer price index. You can check it out, but that should be your first kind of red flag for taking a salary that low right now. The next one is rent. Rent's expensive in a lot of areas. Most of the country has experienced a heavy increase in rent. I live in Florida. Florida has the second highest under New York right now for rent growth, and that's just the reality of where we are. So the total rent growth for the U.S. In 2021, it went up 17.8%, which is a lot of money. I know people personally whose rents went up $300, and I know from ours over past 2 years, if we had rented now, it would have been $600 more than when we got in 2 years ago. And that just shows you, I mean, $600 is a lot of money. $300 is a lot of money. So if you combine that, I mean, you're hopefully your raise, if you get one, offsets this growth. And if you look at inflation for the past year was hovering around, 6.8 percentage, somewhere around there. That's a high number. That's a very high number towards the end of the year. And when you have the next thing that I would consider is really the average bonus of a salary employee. We saw that here. It's right around 11% ish. Again, it's decreased from how high it was in 2019 by a little bit, and then it went down in 2020 and then went up in 2021. So we don't know what that number is going to do this year coming up, but it's just something to consider, because if you say, at face value, you can see the 11% bonus as a positive thing. You might think, wow, if I take a lower paying job but I have a high bonus, that offsets it, right? Only partially, because, again, you may as well just subtract inflation from the bonus percentage, because your money at the beginning of the year is going to be worth less than at the end of the year. So your bonus offsets that a little bit. So if inflation, you just subtract whatever percent that is off your bonus, and that's really more of a truthful kind of outlook as to where you're going to grow. So if you take, what the average raise is, what is the average? I don't know. The average raise, last time I checked, it could be different depending on a lot of factors, but I thought it was around 6-7%, I think. Now, obviously, there's a ton of variables, but that's just the number that I found for the certain criteria that I was looking for in software development. So let's assume it's 7%. A 7% raise, we had 6% inflation rise past year. That doesn't leave a lot of, growth, and it makes it even slower to build your salary to a spot where you can begin to save a lot of money to live. You need to save money in the event of life happening, which it inevitably will. If you look at the next thing I would consider is, okay, you've narrowed it down to say where you want to live. If you're renting an apartment, you should know what the average rent is. So this is in Florida specifically, so there's a pretty wide range. It's high, right? Rent is very high. There's no avoiding how high it is in areas like Florida, New York, everywhere. I knew somebody in Cincinnati that their rent went up $300. I mean, that's just where we're at. And it's just unavoidable, because housing prices have just skyrocketed and material prices are just staying so high. So I don't think the housing prices are going to drop. So you have to, if you're renting, this is the reality. So this is something to factor in, because if your one paycheck is solely going to rent, like let's say you're spending $1,900 in rent and your first paycheck, 1 out of 2 for the month is, let's say, $2,000. Well, you take your one paycheck and put it to rent, and then you have your other paycheck to pay utilities, phone bill, electricity, internet, all the stuff that you need to be able to perform your job. That comes out of your paycheck, and it doesn't leave a lot of room anymore to be able to save and pay down any debts if you have them. And it just makes it complicated. So when you combine all that into just an overall, I don't know if it's a graph, a list, numbers, do the math, figure out where you are in terms of salary in a job that you're considering. And if you apply that and you begin to look at this number through, I think, all the lenses of those factors, you can see how this is it's just not going to cut it, especially for this job. I'm not talking about other jobs. I'm only specifically talking about software development. And that's what I'm basing everything on. So I'm basing salary, expectations on that. I'm basing everything on that. I know what the average is because the data is there, and I look at it when I talk to my managers about salary and raises and all that fun conversations. So I know what it is, and this is just, it's not even it's not even worth it. This is an internship level pay for a junior software developer with years of experience. It just, I'm missing it. It doesn't add up, and it's not something that you probably should consider just based solely on those factors. It's probably not worth your time. And I know you can make the argument to say that, well, if I take this job, then I can get experience to get another job. If you want to do that, that's good. But I would have that route in place, meaning I would already start building contacts, start tracing kind of your trajectory of where you're going to go, to say like, okay, I'm going to work here a year to get experience, I guess. But the hard thing about this is it kind of puts you in an awkward spot, because like if you have more than a year in any of these, you should be way over this. And if you only work here a year just to build experience, and then you say that you only have a year experience after this job, it kind of puts you at a disadvantage, because it's like you spent this time when you could have gotten a way higher salary and still built that experience. So I probably would not do that. I would still look for regular junior software developer jobs, remote. If you can't work remote, I mean, that's fine, but this seems like a last resort to me. Meaning, if you can't find anything else and you've looked, you've tried, I would, I guess try this out. But I would say this is a last resort. But I would just not recommend applying here or applying to this job specifically, or doing this. I don't believe it's worth it. I think there's a lot better options out there if you look and you start using the tools available, like Indeed, LinkedIn, everywhere. And I know you kind of have to. I know nobody likes looking, I guess, for jobs and doing the whole LinkedIn deal, but if you're trying to find a job, there's a lot available right now. So I would just encourage you all to keep looking and don't settle for something like this. So that's all I got. You have any thoughts, questions about any of the numbers? I mean, I just pull them up on graphs that seem to make sense. Let me know. Let me know about anything else in the comments. So thanks all for watching, and yeah, have a good one.